So, as I'm sure you know, I am Tim Holt with Excel Real Estate. I actually have to say that at the start of every video because it's considered an advertisement. So I have to say who I am and who I'm with. Anyway, I was just thinking that I don't have enough time to do all these videos I need to do, cover all the things I want to cover. I try to make time, but then, life happens, as it does to all of us. So where am I going to find the time? And I got these long drives out. I drive for an hour and a half one way for some of my clients. And not today. Today I was just going to the landfill. Had to get rid of some yard debris. I know it's debris. And I thought, it's a long, boring drive. Why not make a video while I'm driving? It seems like a completely safe and rational decision. Anyway, so I wanted to talk about the kinds of approvals that you should have when you start looking for a house. It really is kind of the first steps, getting that pre-approval letter. There's a lot of showings, a lot of listings that won't let you do a showing without a pre-approval letter. They don't really ask for it until you put an offer in, but you can't really put an offer in. You can't submit an offer without either a pre-approval letter or cash, which that's a whole different ball game in and of itself. But so let's start. There's realistically three different things you could have to take to show you that you could afford this home, or that you should be able to afford this home, that we look for. And the first one is the pre-qualification letter. They've become a lot less common. There's some lenders that absolutely won't even do pre-qualification letters anymore. They only do pre-approval. But the pre-qualification letter is quick and dirty. All it is they look at your income, they look at your credit score. I think they do a soft pull. I know some, if I'm not mistaken, don't quote me on it. I believe some don't even do a soft pull on your credit. They just, look at how much money you have in the bank and what your earnings are and what you should be able to afford. So it's not very in-depth. It's very surface level. You should be able to afford this much. That's why a lot of lenders just don't even do them anymore. They're not really preferred. They're certainly not the standard. And they can get you in trouble realistically because, you may get a pre-qualification letter that says you can afford this house. But then when we actually start looking further into it, like you can put an offer in, and then we start looking a little deeper and dealing with the lender, and the answer is no, you can't. So, it could be, it could be years. It could be a year before you can get your credit repaired and get where you need to be to actually afford that house. So pre-qualification letters, not ideal, not in-depth, not thorough, not what we really like to see. Pre-approval letters are the next one, and that is the gold standard, It is the most common. It is what we look for. And like I said, a lot of agents won't work with you if you don't have a pre-approval letter. A lot of listings won't let you do a showing without a pre-approval letter. And you really can't put an offer in without a pre-approval letter. So it is where the lender has actually pulled your credit, and they have looked at your credit worthiness. They've looked at your debt to income ratio, which is a big part. They've looked at a much, much bigger picture on your purchasing power, on what you can likely afford. Which is why it's the golden standard. So it's what we look for, it's what we anticipate, it's what we're used to. And you really do have to have one to put in an offer on a home, because they want to know that you're actually going to be able to finance and afford this home, unless you're doing cash. Cash does have its own hiccups. I know everyone likes to say cash is king in real estate. Cash isn't always king. The money in real estate, cash in real estate, has to have a history. It has to be matured. It has to be substantiated. And I don't think that's a common issue. I have had it happen, but it was just the down payment, not the whole thing. So there was still a pre-approval letter. But if for some reason you have that much cash in your mattress that you want to buy a house with it, just know that it can cause a lot of problems and a lot of hiccups because you have to show where that money came from. I don't know why you would have that much cash in your mattress. I don't know why you would have unsubstantiated cash. I do know reasons why you would have unsubstantiated cash. But whatever. It doesn't mean you can't purchase a house with cash that hasn't been in the bank. You may have to get a traditional loan in the meantime. Show what your earnings are, show where that money came from, and then you would close with the traditional loan and then pay it off with the cash. Yeah, it's going to hurt a little bit more, but it gets us to closing without having to worry about waiting on the funds to be substantiated. If they're legitimate funds and maybe you work a business that gets a lot of cash, maybe you're a barber, that's perfectly legitimate, and they deal with a lot of cash. I don't know, maybe you have a food truck. a lot of people pay cash at food trucks. I don't have a lot of examples of businesses that are cash-based, that are substantial, that are legitimate. I could definitely give you some examples of, illegitimate business that's cash-based. But anyway, you can get a loan with your earnings, as long as you can show some earnings, and then you can just use the cash to pay it off. Yes, you'd be paying lender fees and penalties, but you could definitely do that. Failing that, I believe, so you would have to put the money in the bank. You'd have to show where it came from. You'd have to substantiate some kind of source. And then I think it's 90 days to mature, if I'm not mistaken. Again, don't quote me on that, because I think it's different on different amounts. Over 5,000, it's 90 days. Then over 100,000 or something. Google it. That's my answer. Don't quote me on it, because I'm not a lender, and I'm not a financial institution. So I'm not entirely sure, but I believe it's 90 days. If you have that much cash, we'll figure it out. Yeah, if you've got all cash, we'll figure it out. We'll make it happen. That aside, the third kind of approval is to actually be underwritten. Different lenders call it different things. I believe Bank of America calls it Ready Buyer. There's another lender I work with, Contour Mortgage. I know they have a different name for it. We were just talking about it last month. I don't remember what they call it. But it means that they have actually gone one step further. So when you put in a traditional offer with a traditional lender, you have your pre-approval letter. The next step is we find the house, we put the offer in, the offer's accepted, cool. Then we go back to the lender and say, here's the subject property, here's the house that we are submitting our offer on. And then you have to go through the underwriter process. The underwriter, and by the way, nobody knows an underwriter. I know people in damn near every field, in every walk of life. I have a really weird resume myself. I have never met an underwriter. I know they're real. I've spoken to them. I think you have to lie. I think if you're an underwriter, you're like a secret agent, and you have to lie about what you do whenever anyone asks. You can't be underwriter for lenders. Nah, you gotta be like, car salesman. I'm a car salesman. I don't know. Anyway, never met an underwriter in my life. I've met lenders, lawyers, doctors, surgeons, astronauts, salvage divers. I've never met an underwriter. Anyway, to get back on topic, so they go through the process of actually getting you underwritten. So with the pre-approval letter, they know about what you can afford, and then they say, you know what, your credit history is good, your credit score is good, your earnings are great. Let's go ahead and get you pre-closed. Let's go ahead and get you underwritten. Let's get us at the step where we don't have to wait on that. The underwriter is the number one hang-up, the number one hiccup in a traditional loan, in a traditional closing. They're the ones who you're already set, you're under contract, you have a closing date, and then someone says, you know what though, I need a letter explaining what this is. I need to know why Columbia House is on your credit history back in the 80s. Everyone has that back in the 80s. Anyway, it is the number one hang up, the number one hiccup, and it definitely can change our close date. It can push things back. So being pre-underwritten, being pre-closed, it prevents that. You're already underwritten. So the advantage is that offer, and a lot of lenders will tell you it's as good as cash. That offer is almost as good as cash. And I guess in a lot of ways it's as good as cash, because like we just said, cash is sometimes not king in real estate. Cash can definitely cause its own set of problems in real estate. But the being underwritten ahead of time means you don't have to wait for underwriting. We don't have to wait for that 30 days or whatever it may take. Sometimes it's even longer than that. We don't have to wait. We're already underwritten. We know we're qualified. We know we can get this house. We have a maximum amount. Stay under that. We can move forward. So it still can have some hiccups though, because they're approving you, not the house you want. They're saying you can afford this much. We're set. We're happy with you. Everything looks good. Then you go find the property, the subject property. You go find the house you want, and it is a matter of the appraisal and the inspection. So although it is as good as cash, it will still have contingencies in most cases. Lenders that are doing these pre-close, they're already underwritten. They almost always require the appraisal and the inspection, though, just as a rule, because they don't want to give you, $350,000 on a house that's only worth $200,000, and you've got no equity and none of your own money tied up in it, and it could end really badly for the lender. I'm positive nobody has sympathy for the lender. Sorry for you, but that is why it's set that way. So, with cash, you could absolutely skip the appraisal and the inspection. So is a pre-close, is a ready buyer, someone who's already underwritten, is it as good as cash? Not exactly. Not exactly. But it's still better. It's still more attractive. And the biggest part of it is that when we put this offer in, we get to skip the box that says we have financing contingency. We skip the box that says we have to wait for our lender contingency. It's gone. We're already linked. We're already loaned. We're already cute. Anyway, edit that out. So you're already approved. You're already set to close. So you don't have to wait on that part of the process. I think I'm rambling at this point, but I'm driving, so I'm gonna ramble. The point is, you have your pre-qualification letter that most lenders don't give. I don't even say most. A lot of lenders don't give out anymore. They're not ideal. They're not in depth. They don't give you a great picture. They're just a snapshot, and they say should be able to afford a house. Pre-approval is the golden standard. It's the one you can even see my fingers. We're on 2. Pre-approval is the golden standard. It's the one that we all know and love. It says that we've pulled your credit, we've pulled your debt-to-income ratio, we've pulled all your information, and we think you should be able to afford this property up to this amount. Blah blah blah. Then you have your pre-underwritten, your pre-contract, your pre-closed. And it simply means that we don't have to wait on the underwriter. We don't have to wait on the rest of this process. We already did it. And we are set to close, and our offer is almost as good as cash. And then, of course, you have cash. So those are the different options. You definitely are going to need to have one of them before you put in an offer on a property. So be sure, that's kind of step 1, realistically, in buying real estate. You need to have this done. As I said before, and I'll say again, a lot of realtors will not work with a client that does not have at least a pre-approval letter. I have, and I will, and I'll continue to do it, and it will probably continue to shoot me in the foot. But I'm still here to help you. So if you want to start looking at houses and it's early, I'm going to explain to you why it's too early. I'm going to explain to you how this process is probably not going to work out in your favor, and you're not going to get the house that you quote-unquote fell in love with. But I'm still going to help you. We'll get through it together. Pre-approval letter. Get one. I think that's everything. I am going to be heavily editing this video, but I figured I'd do it while I'm driving since I have these long drives and nothing to do on them. My radio's broke. That's part of the reason I'm doing this. I can turn it on. I can put the music on, and then every time I hit a bump or cross railroad tracks or really get into the music and drum on my steering wheel a little too hard, the radio cuts off. So I'll get it fixed eventually. But while I have silence and peace and quiet, I figured I'd go ahead and knock one of these videos out. Good use of my time. Multitasking? I don't know. Heavily edited, I'm sure. Largely redacted, I'm positive. But that is it for the video on what you're supposed to have for step 1 for your approval letters as we go into the process of home buying. Do not hesitate. Yeah, you ran that one. Do not hesitate to reach out to me. Not me, they did. With any questions about real estate or anything for that matter, I'm absolutely here for you. And again, I am Tim Holt with Excel Real Estate. Have a good day.